Welcome to An Incomplete Guide to World Domination, a podcast by creators for creators, because together we can take over the world. Today we talk to a friend of mine who works as a freelance programmer by day and an indie game dev by night. So just introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about you.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me, Brianna. I do appreciate it. For those who don't know me, I am Summer Howard. I've been programming since I was about 12 or 14, probably 14, closer to 14.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's a story I can ramble about. But I've been programming for about 10 years now. My day job and what I do in my free time are both very separate things. As in my day job, I write medical software. I consult. I've worked at IBM. I've worked at small shops, everywhere in between. And I've been doing professional software development for about 10 years on that side. My free time, though, has always been video games in some form or fashion. And that's how Brianna and I met, was through the Dallas Society of Play, which I'm sure I'll be talking about later.
It's an awesome organization, by the way, with some really cool people.
Yeah, we are very lucky to have all of our organizers do a fantastic job of running the meeting, running the events. I've been running it for about 5 years now, and it makes me so happy that we have this club here in Dallas.
So how did you first, get started, attending DSOP, and then how did you come to be an organizer?
Right. So, where do I start? I had just moved down from Missouri, and I got into Texas. And the only people I knew here were my parents. I always knew I was born in Texas, and I, came back to the motherland, so to speak. So I had spent most of 25 years of my life up in Missouri. And so here I was in Dallas, in the area, and I didn't know anyone, and I didn't have any friends. All I had was my parents.
Me when I got out of college.
Yeah. And so what do? I'm a nerd. I don't want to go to bars. So I looked up online and started trying to find clubs, because that's what you need. I no longer had the safety net of college or club meetings up in Missouri. I needed to find connections here. So I started going to meetup.com and facebook.com, and they were doing some indie dev stuff. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I found DSOP, probably 7 years ago at this point. And anyway, I showed up, observed it quietly, and then by that point, I was already writing on my my second draft of Mercenary Leo in Impact.js. So I asked the organizers, hey, can I give a presentation on Impact.js, which is a JavaScript game engine? Mm-hmm. And so I gave that presentation, and then I naturally have a bit of a leadership spark in me, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, thank you. Brianna knows me, so she knows. I'm very, it's my way. I laugh because I'm all too aware of it. I'm very agreeable, if anyone's listening. I'm very agreeable. It's just I'm very bullheaded. You talk to me for 5 minutes, you'll see it.
But it's in a good way.
And it's I am agreeable. I will listen. I just think I'm right. But anyway, I started organizing game jams. I was going up to all the meetings. And eventually the organizers pulled me aside and said, well, you're doing a lot of good for us. Do you want to be an organizer? And I said, sure. And that's why I became an organizer.
Because why not?
Yeah, exactly. So my role within Dallas Society of Play is I'm usually the one who starts the game jams. I'm starting to get into organizing. DreamHack just happened, which was a giant convention. So I had to help organize that and get...
I hated that I couldn't go to that.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm sorry not to rub it in, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
But it was... so, again, running game jams. I'm starting to run coordination between the events. Someone who organizes the Let's Play convention, which is about 2 months.
Ooh,
yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I volunteered there last year.
Yeah. They knew me, and they came up to me and said, hey, do you want to be the indie point coordinator, indie coordinator? I was like, yes. And so I'm starting to ramp up for that as well. But generally in DSOP, I'm the one who goes at the front and I do the announcements. I tell, like, the rules, the regulations, be excellent to each other. But I'm always very careful to say I am only one of 5 organizers. Some of the other organizers, especially Russell, they're more behind the shadows. But, I mean, shout out to Russell. Russell is the one who runs the meetup. He handles the meetup, the banner ads. He just did our rebranding. There's a lot of work that all the organizers do, and it's not just me. It's just I'm usually the public face, but it's like I do not run DSOP. I'm in the front, but man, Russell especially, Russell and Ian, they are definitely, yeah. And then Justin's the voice of reason, and then Storm is the Justin's a very good Russell. He's the voice of reason. He tells me when I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And then Storm is our node coordinator. So yeah, there's 5 of us, and we all have our little roles.
So I completely missed the meeting we talked about the rebranding because that was the one night where it had been closing. So what did I miss with that?
Okay.
I'm curious.
No. So we have been needing a rebranding for a while. When the original logo was made a couple of years ago, it worked. There's nothing wrong with it. But we were starting to think that as DSOP grew and matured, now that we're kind of a legitimate organization where we are at these gaming conventions doing outreach, we're throwing game jams, we're doing events, and people know about us, and we're starting to gain a little bit of clout. And so we decided that it was time, especially with the website getting old, we really needed a rebranding. The rebranding, in short, is that our mascot, we now have a mascot, which is fantastic.
What?
And I'll show you on the banner on our way out because the banner is here at Node.
Oh, I'm oblivious.
Yeah, no. And it is a gelatinous cube with cute little technicals on it, and I think it's the cutest damn thing. And Russell came up with that, and again, we are damn lucky to have him. We are very lucky to have him.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, Russell's good people.
A couple of times.
Yeah, Russell's good people. So yeah, that's the rebranding, is just new colors and new website, and we're gonna do probably. I know we need t-shirts because you gotta have t-shirts, and just kind of a more. We needed it, I guess. Is what I'll leave it at that. We needed it.
just kind of like a newer face, and then getting more out there.
Yeah, getting more out there. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think I didn't hear about the Society of Play until I started going to the Video Game Open Coffee Club meetings, and that's when I first started hearing about it. Mm-hmm. I was working with someone on a game at that time, so we talked about, like, possibly, it was a bigger game, so we were talking about, when I saw that and I saw the arcade cabinet, I was like, maybe we could do a couple smaller ones, and that since fell through because he dropped off the face of the planet.
Sure.
But I'm still glad because it led me to this organization where I've met some cool people and have my own game thing I'm working on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big thing about DSOP is that everyone in here is a creative-driven individual, where I personally know that I would not be as far with my projects if it wasn't for the people that are in DSOP, because you're around people who have ported to consoles, they've talked to publishers, they've gone to E3, they've shipped on Steam, they've made money off Steam, or they've made money off the iOS store. Like, there are so many people that have legitimacy, and you talk to them and they're just like you and me, and it's like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? And then that's what happens. It's magical.
I have to say, that's like one of the best things that I've realized is that all these people are, like, they're just human beings.
Yes, they are.
I've had some conversations with the person who's now, like, the director of design at Bioware, and, like, I've talked to people from Telltale, and I talk to people on Twitter all the time, and it's like, they're people. You just gotta be nice, and that's how you make friends.
Exactly. Well, it's even two people. Yeah, I can say this. It's people that you know now are going to be somewhere in 5 years, and because of that, I say that, is I know people 5 years ago, like, yeah, they were students, they were trying, they were doing their own indie thing, but now one of them's a producer at Sony, one of them is now at Microsoft on the Minecraft team, right?
Holy cow.
And I used to know someone from Nintendo, so it's like, you just, it happens. Like, suddenly, like, you look at your network, because you've been making games, and you've been in the indie sphere for like 5 years, or, you know, maybe you've gone AAA or AAA, like you go to Gearbox or id or whatever, and then suddenly it's like you have all of these connections, and you realize that the world of video game developers is really not that big. So it isn't. No, it's not.
So that's why you gotta be nice.
You gotta be nice, because someone you're talking to might be important in a couple of years.
Either that, or they probably are friends with important people. So yeah, just
be nice. Be nice.
I have to say, I laugh a lot sometimes whenever I see someone just that once in the industry just blatantly insult like a dev on Twitter. I'm like,
yeah, don't do that.
You can kiss your career goodbye because I guarantee they have friends.
Yeah. And so I would love to talk about even how to break into the industry. Do I get asked questions about that? Are you interviewing me about that?
Go for it. Okay. I mean, like, we could also do it, like, if this runs long, I could just make it a couple of episodes.
Yeah,
we could always come back and talk about stuff.
Sure.
Go for it.
Everyone wants to know, and I've run so many panels at, like, A-Kon and Let's Play and all these smaller gaming conventions, and usually it's how do you get into the industry, right? Like, you grew up playing video games, and how do you make them, right? You have that spark in you. And the too long didn't read summary is just start now. It's, even if you want to get into a AAA space, you have to start now because you need a portfolio. You don't necessarily need a degree. The degree definitely helps, though. The degree stops you from getting bodied by HR. Because, I mean, think of it from their perspective. HR has 2 resumes. One's from SMU Guildhall, which is fantastic. I've heard nothing and I've seen nothing but amazing things from that college. Mm-hmm. You know, you have someone from Guildhall, and then you have someone who's, you know, if you only made 1 or 2 projects, then yeah, you're going to get passed over. But eventually it comes to the point where if you've been making games for 10 years like me, you start to have a little clout. Now, yeah, an SMU Guildhall person's going to blow me out of the water, but that's okay. I'm at least being considered at that point. And it's not just going, you know, the traditional way. A lot of times it is who do you know? It's a lot of people here at DSOP especially, they make their own indie studios and then they get bought out by a publisher and suddenly they are, you know, they're hiring people, right? Like all I can say now is just start now. It's start small, start now. Come to organizations like DSOP, make friends, make teams, make games. That's all you have to do, and eventually it will happen. Yeah, it's inevitable.
Yeah. So, what made you decide to like have indie development as a side thing and not your main thing?
Right.
Because a lot of
no, absolutely. That's a really good question, Brianna. A lot of people, for those who don't know, I've already said. Is my day job, again, I'm in medical. I've never worked in AAA space, and I doubt I ever will. And not because I can't, it's that I don't want to. It's medical and anything else, it's just more stable, honestly. Now, I've been laid off before, so I have to eat my own words. But most of the time, it is 40 in and 40 out. And it's stable, and it puts a roof over my head, and I don't have to worry about anything. I go in, I do a very good job, you know, put in extra time if I need to. I mean, I've worked weekends, I've worked holidays. You know, you do it when you have to. Mm-hmm. And then you go home, and then you do the indie stuff on the side. Now, would I like to do indie full-time? Yes. I'm kind of as I branch into freelancing now, which is a recent change in the last couple of months. For me, freelancing is, okay, how do I work 6 months on and 6 months off? But case in point is where I am at in my career as an indie developer is, yes, I have been doing it for 10 years, but it's always small stuff, right? Or it's with a team where the money's not, you know, there's either no money or little money, so you're not going to get much. You might get you a Starbucks cup of coffee. But where I'm at as an independent is maybe the game I'm working on might make me a couple $1,000s. That's great, right? But that's not sustaining, right? Maybe I'll get a publisher, but right now where I'm at, it's the indie stuff it's not putting a food on my table and a roof over my head. So I choose to do the stable stuff during the day job hours and then the indie stuff on the side. And I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years at this point. Like, I've always made games like in my free time, but not to the level of I work on my game every single day now, even if at least a minimum of 20 minutes. It's like every single day I work on it. And if I don't, I have failed. And it's a very stringent lifestyle, but it forces me to make time for it, and that's what I do, and it makes sense to me. So that's where I'm at.
So yeah, that also makes sense to me. I do work on some games on the side, and by that I mean I have a Twine game that I haven't touched in 2 months because I've got 2 jobs right now. Sure. Between like Barnes & Noble and freelance video game PR stuff and trying to find another job. It's like my life is always on fire.
Yeah. Well, I knew someone, Alan. Yep, Alan, if you're listening, I'm talking about you. I knew Alan was working at Game Over Video Games, and he was doing the PR stuff on the side. And eventually, Telltale hired him. Now he was going to PAX. He loved their games. He loved the Borderlands series, and he was just in cosplay and managed. It was the right place at the right time. Just how DSOP is the right place at the right time. He bumped into someone at Telltale, and he got hired. And I am so proud of Alan. I really am, because that's a prime example of if you want it bad enough and you keep doing it, at some point you are too great to be ignored, and that's all it is. And yeah, there may be times where it's dark and nothing seems to be working, but you just have to put your nose to the grindstone and keep making good content whenever you can. Even if it's you're burned out and you need a 2-month break off, that's fine. Absolutely. It's because you need to make sure that you yourself are settled and you're stable and you're happy with yourself, and then you can start creating, right? Everyone's different, but if you are hungry enough to get into this industry, it will happen. It's just a matter of when and how, honestly.
So why don't you tell me a little bit more about your game, Lito?
Sure.
Because it looks kind of adorable.
Well, thank you. So, Mercenary Leo, the elevator pitch, is a 2D action platformer set in a science fantasy world. And in it, you will travel the galaxy with a ragtag group of mercenaries and friends, all endearing, or you'll hate them. That's how I write them, is some characters you are not supposed to like. And eventually you will uncover a plot to stop dragon poachers. That's my elevator pitch. And this is the fun part where I get to kind of sheepishly admit stuff. I'm laughing because there's nothing to hide, I just laugh. Is that if anyone wants a prime example of what it looks like when you don't know what you're doing is me. It's Mercenary Leo has been in development since 2012. That is 7 years at this point. Yeah, 7 years. And people look at me and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, hold on. It's been in Unity since 2015, so cut me a break." I did not know what I was doing. And
do any of us?
Yeah, exactly. I started in XNA, and I fought with that for 7 to 8 months, just trying to do like basic platforming and collision detection. And it was a mixture of I didn't have the technical chops. I could now. And also, it wasn't really fun for me to work in after a while. Like, you're doing a lot of low-level stuff, like loading sprite sheets into the memory. And I'll say this, is Owlboy was written in XNA, and oh my god, they could... Very talented. It blew my mind when I found that out. But anyway, it was in XNA for about 8 months. And then it went into Impact.js for about, I want to say, a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And Impact.js was great. And the fact that you had collision detection and pretty good platforming in about 20 minutes, because the engine was set up for basically... Thinking about it, I think you could make like a top-down in it, but I want to say it was really geared towards platformers, and it just felt really nice. And that was a very humbling experience for me, because as a software developer, I see code first. I think code first. I just do. So it was a very humbling way for me to realize that you don't have to get bare bones and write and say XNA or a really low level framework when something like Impact.js will just do it for you right out of the box. You just have to configure it. And I realize now that if you are trying to make a simple, like I said, Lito is a 2-dimensional platformer. It's Mega Man, it's Metroid, right? It's Mario. There's probably a game engine that will take care of you and will get you faster on creating the games than fighting the engine itself or lack thereof. But I know people, I've talked to programmers. I even talked to a programmer over at DreamHack this weekend, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm writing my own engine." I'm like, "Okay." And you can't fault him for it. Yeah. So, and honestly, some people, you can't tell him. Maybe he's right. Maybe whatever game he's making, he needs a custom engine for it. It's like, and that happens, especially when you're a developer first. You're like, well, I have this problem, I'm going to go solve it. And it's like, it's strange, but it's more familiar. It's easy because it's close to you. It's like, well, I want to make a game, so it's easier for me to write something in whatever programming language I know than go to the internet and ask the internet, hey, what game engine should I use? That's exactly what it is. It's more familiar to write your own code than try and pull something off the shelf and try and configure it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Lito was in Impact.js for about a year and a half. And around that time, that's when Unity started getting big. Mm-hmm. And it's, in my hubris, I should have, I say this, and it's hard for me to properly give a good answer looking back on it. I think I can do this. So Lito had been in my head for a long time. And looking at Impact.js, I could have shipped it, it could have worked, but for some reason it wasn't good enough. At the time, I didn't think I could get an HTML5 canvas game to run in Steam. And if that was the case, I was like, well, I can't make money for it. And I'm not money motivated, as strange as that sounds. I wanted the legitimacy. I wanted the clout. It's like, how do I get this out to people that it's not just, something free to play? Which, looking back on it, I could have taken Impact.js, I could have made a few small games in it, and I could have put on on a website somewhere and be like, hey, I make games, right? Like, that's a great portfolio piece, move on. But I just wasn't happy with that. Lito was my dream game, and I didn't want to...
It's your baby.
It's my baby, and it's like my engine's not good enough. What do I do? So, I was at Acon, and Fractal Fox was in the area. Fractal Fox makes mobile games, and they make mobile games in Unity. And this was back in 2014, yeah. And I went to... This is a great story on how you get into the industry. I went to all their panels. I met them. I was very friendly. I wasn't creepy. I wasn't desperate. But I stopped by the booth one day, and Patrick, hello Patrick if you're listening to this, Patrick needed, I think it was an iPhone charging cable or an Android charging cable, I forget. And I had one, so I gave it to him. I was like, here you go. I'll be back in a couple hours. He's like, yeah, thanks. He learned my name. He knew a little bit about me by that point, because, just being very friendly and not creepy, not demanding, not desperate. And I walked off for a couple hours, did whatever, and then I came back, but at that point, though, I had Lito running on a laptop in the browser, and I asked him, I was like, Fractal Fox, I don't know how big it is, I don't know if you even need me, but do you need programmers? Because I had the game running right there. And I will never forget this, as Patrick put his left and right hands on both of my shoulders and pulled me into his booth. And that's how I started doing work for Fractal Fox for a year to learn Unity. Full disclaimer is that it was all rev share, I wasn't paid, but it didn't matter because I learned Unity in the year that I was with them. And that's what I needed, because at that point I didn't want to do Unreal, and Unity was in C#, which I already knew from my XNA days. So learning Unity seemed familiar. And it's another funny tale of Lito could have been written in GameMaker, and I'm sure it would have been better in GameMaker, but it's the same curse of I'm a software developer and I don't want to have to learn a new game-making language. I'd rather just use C#. So when people ask me, it's like, why are you making a 2D game in a 3D engine? It's like, because it made sense to me at the time. And it still does. It still does. There's a lot of things that Unity can run on anything. I can port it to anything if I choose to. Being a Unity developer at DSOP is a huge plus, because most indie developers are using Unity at this time. We have a couple people using Unreal and a couple people using their own languages or writing their own engines to make games in. But really, when it comes to game jams, most of the time it's Unity, and it's for better or for worse, right?
I'm pretty sure our game was all in Unity as well.
Yeah, for better or for worse.
I'm so proud of how well that came out.
Right. But yeah, that's Lito, and so that's the long of it, kind of where it is right now. So I did Fractal Fox for a year, and then I started porting Lito's Impact.js code into Unity, and it's since like the summer of 2015. Yeah. And it's been fun. I've realized now that I've kind of built a engine on top of Unity to handle things like save state, some collision detection. Lito's movement is pixel perfect to some degree. It's like decimal perfect, right? Because I needed absolute control over how she moved. But yeah, save games, how do you read dialogue, how do you read from save flags, like all of this work I've done on top of Unity. It leads me to believe that I coin it as I sort of have a Lito engine at this point that I'm very familiar with. And I like to make the joke that it's a swamp, but it's my swamp and it's very comfortable and I know what needs to be done.
But yeah, everyone has their own way of doing things. Like, I'm a writer, so that means I've got a butt ton of Word documents. It's all organized
To
into
you.
folders with subfolders, so I'm just like, have fun finding anything
Yeah.
if you're not me.
Yeah. It's I definitely don't want a programmer in my code, but it makes sense to me. Lito is doing well. I always say it'll come out in 2 years, but there's no deadline. It's really a hobby project, and I'm okay admitting that. Like, it comes with maturity to be able to call something is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's a hobby project. It's on Steam Early Access. I've made like $400 off of it at this point, which is, everyone's like, oh, that, which isn't bad. No, it's not. But I've probably spent a couple of grand at this point paying Zachary, my lovely, lovely artist who I do not deserve, paying, first it was Greg, and then I moved to Shay for music because I can't do it. And then plus there's merchandise, and then there's website, and then there's fees here and there that it's, there's always, fees here and there that come up. But I couldn't be happier. I really couldn't. Lito is really my first commercial project, and I want it to be the best that it possibly can be. And I like the fact that it will come out when I'm ready because I have full control over it. Yeah. It's right now I'm working on the full production schedule, and I'm always getting those ideas like, oh, if I had this character do this or this character do this, I can do it. I don't have to just justify it to anyone. It's like, no, this is people who play it, who sit down and really appreciate it for what it is. They seem to like it, which is always, it helps you. It helps the imposter syndrome.
And you're just like, oh, yay, I made a thing, and people
don't
hate it.
And people don't hate it, yeah. But no, they like it, and they find it endearing, and that's kind of all the confidence you need and a little bit of feedback where it used to be that I just wanted one person to like my stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And that's already happened, so I've already won. But again, it's a hobby project. And I don't know what I'm going to do after Lito. I know I will do something, but now that I'm kind of comfortable in this Lito engine, it's really easy for me to do another platformer. But I don't know yet. It'd be really easy for me to do it. It's the Dark Souls problem. Demon Souls was good, but Dark Souls was built on top of it, and Dark Souls I'm playing through it right now, so it's on the top of my brain right now. It's a beautiful game.
I've been told I would enjoy it, but the thing is, like, I'm not super coordinated with combat stuff, so I'm like, I don't think I would get very far before I'm just like,
It is. I would not get through it or play it at all because of exactly that. It's like, it does have this, like, wall where it's like, no, you have to be good to play this game. And the truth is you are going to die a lot. But Dark Souls is fair. It is, if you run in without a plan, you will die. If your weapons aren't upgraded, you're going to have a bad time, and you will learn very quickly when you need to go upgrade your weapons. It also does help, too, that Tyler, my fiance, has put like 2,000 or 3,000 hours into those games across all the consoles, so he knows where everything is. So having someone next to me saying,
impressive.
having someone next to me that says, hey, try this, do this build, okay, this is how you're going to play, you're going to do this. And it's even, too, watching him play the game. Like, right now he's doing a knives-only playthrough. He doesn't even have a shield. And he's doing, like, he'll die a couple of times, but he gets through it.
That stresses me out to think about.
No, but it's possible. It's the difference of, it's removing that mental barrier is what it is. Yeah. And once I beat the Taurus demon, which I died like 40 times too, then it's okay. But you're angry at the game for a while. You really are.
Yeah.
But no, Dark Souls is, you just have to get the mental barrier out of the way, and then you can do it. You can do it.
I'm gonna have to play that one after a while, but I remember, like, the last time I was really struggling with a boss fight, so I was well, no, it wasn't the last time, but it was when I was first playing Dragon Age Origins for the first time.
Yep.
And when you're fighting the Archdemon.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I died like 6 times, and my roommate, she was also playing on her PC. I don't think she was quite there yet. Mm-hmm. So she looked at him, she's like, hey, try this thing. Yeah. So because I was at an easy difficulty level, so I just wandered over to a ballista and auto-targeted it and just shot it.
Yeah, sometimes and
I love that.
Yeah. So. And there are definitely times where if you're running into a wall over and over and over again in any video game or any fact of life,
it's like life.
It's like, maybe I need to just approach this a little differently, and Dark Souls has taught that to me, where I run into a boss fight and I get my face slapped. I'll say that. I wasn't gonna say what I wanted to say. You get slapped, and you get slapped a couple of times, and you're like, after like the 15th time, you're like, maybe I need to change my equipment load. And then you just run in there, and you're like, well, I can't roll because I'm wearing the heaviest armor in the game. But at least you can survive that one combo attack, and then you can beat the boss. And sometimes you just have to do that.
Yeah,
At least at my skill level. I'm not that good.
I remember with Dragon Age 2, my first playthrough, I was kind of dumb about how I did my power level ups. So I played through again. I was smarter that time. And, like, because there's this one fight where you have to fight. There's, like, 100 regular demons, 2 pride demons, and a blood mage. Yeah. And I hated that part so much. I figured, I'm like, if I do this, I switch to Fenris, run in, kill the blood mage immediately, switch, but no. I was a mage, so I'd do, like, an area of effect attack. Switch to Fenris, take out the blood mage, and then I finally beat it. I was like, yes!
Yeah, but see, like,
and then the game just gets worse, but in different ways.
Yes. It's, man, it's, when people ask me some of the inspiration for Lito, it's definitely the Bioware games. Like, Knights of the Old Republic, like, 1 and 2, and Neverwinter Nights, like...
I have Knights of the Old Republic on my computer. Yeah. I've played it a little bit, and it's really fun when you click on a thing, and it's just like... It's like, what's this? Like, oh, you go to this thing in the menu. And I'm like, this doesn't break anything at all.
Yeah. It's, I just like characters. It's, I like good stories. I try and write good stories. I try and write endearing characters. That's a lot of the foundation for Lito. And what I've learned, at least for Lito, is that there's the action, there's the platforming, but really it's there just to get you to the next narrative piece, right?
Yeah.
And Lito's going to be quite different from anything else that I've seen, just because it's just like any indie out there making their own game. It's going to be a little bit different. It's everyone can bake a cake, but it's how you bake it and what you put in and what ingredients, and you just have to hope that the people eating the cake, like, do you want one person to like it or do you want 1 million people to like it, right? And it's just you have to kind of tweak the recipe to see what you're going to get. So...
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta make the thing that you want to make, and don't worry if everyone's gonna like it or not.
No, right. Sometimes,
if you like it, someone out there will.
And sometimes it's how you approach it. Like, do you want to make the next big thing? And it's like, well, I'll go make Fortnite, right? Like, or do you want to make something that makes you happy? It's just questions that need to be answered, and sometimes you don't know right away what you want, and that's okay too. But my answer to anyone wanting to get in the industry, it's like, go home and download Game Maker or Unity or anything. It's just because my journey went a certain way doesn't mean that, if you want to make Twine games all day, good power to you. Absolutely.
I mean, there's some Twine games out there that make money. They're mostly porn, but they make money.
Yeah.
I've walked in on conversations between game writers about that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And that is an art form in of itself.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get into it, but it makes money, but I'm too prude.
I feel that.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm too prude.
It's just like, I'm not going to judge you for enjoying it,
yes.
but I'm just going to be over here replaying Mass Effect for the 15th time. After beating Uncharted for the Uncharted series.
Well, it's not even prudence, it's private. Like, no one needs, like,
you don't need to know this about me.
You don't need to know it. Exactly. You don't need to know this about me. Next question.
Yeah. Definitely feel that.
Yep. All right.
Anything else you want to talk about? Or So how's your freelance stuff going so far?
Good. It is. I suppose I got to go in a story about that. Why I went into freelancing.
Yeah.
Yay,
story time.
Yeah, story time. So I did full-time development. 9 to 5, 7 to 4, whatever. Programming work for 10 years. And freelancing, I started realizing with freelancing, it's a lot more risk, but a lot more reward in the fact that you can set your own time, you can set your own hours. Projects, you either have to hunt for projects or they come to you. But just the ability to, the fact that I can even have this interview with you at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the middle of the day is because I'm not tied up with a 9 to 5. Now, there are going to come times when clients are going to want me in an office from 9 to 5, and that's fine. I understand that. But just the ability to break away from the normality of the 9 to 5 day job a couple of months out of the year is doing wonders for me. It's again, I'll do it. I've done it. I can do it. I'm not balking about that. But just the ability to wake up early, go to the gym, come back, and start writing code from the comfort of my own home and my 2 cats. That's really, that's my end game. And for some clients, they want you in the office, and I understand that. Or maybe they want you in the office once a week. That's fine. I understand that. But eventually, it's, you can trust me. I will do the work you want me to do. Good expectations, good communication.
I'm just going to be in my pajamas the entire time.
Yeah. And I want, I have good company, and they're my cats, and I'm not being bothered by anyone. I can focus for hours at a time. That's fine. And I'm not bothered, and I can just be in the code zone for hours. And I'm more productive, and I'm more happy. So I know I can do it because I'm doing it, and I'm just going to keep at it for a while. Like, again, it's less stability. It's feast and famine. But you are the master of your own destiny. You steer your own ship. So that's why I'm into freelancing.
Yeah, the way I've heard it described is the great thing about freelancing is when you don't want to work on a project, you can just stop.
Yeah, you can just stop.
But the bad thing about freelancing is whenever you don't want to work on a project, you can just stop. Yeah, I've done a little freelance on the side, but it's all just like, it's hard to get going, especially if you don't have a lot of like backbone to your resume and like
it's
strong portfolio.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you could do it if you were fresh out of college, but man, you are gonna have to hustle for it. It's the experience and it's the right skill set, like, and
knowing people too.
And really, I've had it pitched to me that knowing people and networking and finding the next client is like 95% of your job as a freelancer. It's like, I can do the work, it's just I gotta find the work, right?
Yep.
Because not everyone, I talk to companies all the time where they're like, no, we need you full-time, and it's like, I don't want to be full-time. Like, I'll come in for 6 months, and then I want to be off for can we work?
There's the reason I'm doing freelance is I don't want a 9 to 5.
It's...
Although right now I'd love a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But that's different.
Yeah. And it's gonna change. It's just going to depend on what the work is and how long they want it, and am I excited to work on it? That's a good question to ask. Yeah. But just after 10 years, even the fact of, I want a week off, and then I get told by HR I don't have the vacation. It's like, then just don't pay me, right? But they're like, no, we need you in the office, and it's like, just.
Do you really though?
Yeah, it's like, do you really need me in the office? Like, things are slow right now. Like, can I leave?
Can I just get all my stuff done early and
then
they
go home, right?
Yeah.
But it just depends on the client. Some clients are flexible like that, and I know that towards the future, clients have to get more flexible, especially with working remotely. Mm-hmm. Your workforce pool is now the world. It's not people just living in Dallas. It's like you can have really good software developers in remote parts of the world, and they're doing fantastic work for you. You just have to build your company around it. Basecamp definitely comes to mind. Mm-hmm. They write books on it, and they're like, yeah, it works. We have I want to say they have 40 people. I'm probably completely wrong, but they do all their work asynchronously. They have good communication. It works. Mm-hmm. You can do it. You can do it. It's just
take some,
trust. It's trust is what it is.
That and figuring out good ways to communicate so everyone knows what's going on at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's even too is that if you're a client and everyone's remote, it's you don't need an office anymore, so you're saving money right there. You're not renting somewhere.
I'm just like, if you're by yourself, you could just get a 2-bedroom, find a nice little 2-bedroom apartment and not the shadiest part of town.
Yeah.
And just
work.
You have an office.
You have an office, exactly.
Or just, put, have a place where you can sit with your computer with a nice, plain black wall and wear something nice from the top down.
Yeah, exactly. It's above all, it can work. It's just, not everyone is ready for that. And, some places, you need to go in the office. I understand that. But it's just, I would prefer not to work for them for very long. Go in, do a good job, and then go, okay, I've had enough fun, I'll go in, I'll work.
All right, moving on. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Mm-hmm.
You've been great. Let me know if you need anything in the future. I'm going to run away now.
Yep. Yep. Well, yeah. Yeah. I suppose this is the signing out part. I think I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Yeah, it's been good talking to you. And thanks for agreeing to come to
No, absolutely. Thank you for meeting me. But yeah, it's parting words. If you want to get into game development, if you're in the Dallas area, come to DSOP. And if you want to get into indie stuff, wherever you are, just start. Find a community online. Post your stuff. Get on Twitter. Everyone's on Twitter.
Seriously, everyone's on Twitter. And just, if you find the right people, then you'll find more people. And but also, be nice.
Yeah, be nice. That's always a good thing, too. So,
be nice. Don't just talk talk to people about like life stuff. And don't just be like,
yeah, don't.
Hey, hire me.
I had that happen. Okay, I gotta tell this story.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be the guy. And if you're the guy and you're listening to this, I'm not trying to be mean, but don't do that. Like, I was running the booth, and a guy comes up with a resume in hand. It's like, hi, I'm this person. I just graduated. Here's my resume. I'm like, whoa. First off, I'm not the person to talk to. Second, what you did was frankly rude. Let's try again. How about come to DSOP for a while, do some good stuff, and then, if you tell people you're looking, it's gonna happen, but don't be abrasive like that. No offense to the guy if he's listening, but that is not how you get a job. Like, it's also, I'm not a recruiter. If I'm a recruiter, then yes, please give me your resume, but I'm not a recruiter. I don't need people. I already got my 2 people. I got my musician and my artist. I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, anyway, yeah.
You got to build the relationship first.
You have to build the relationship. It's, if the job posting is online, like Indeed.com or Jobs.com, they have already failed because they don't want to do it, because it's a huge waste of time to go through the resumes, to comb through them. Third parties are going to contact them, and third parties cost money. They would much rather have it, if I'm working for someone and they say, do you know someone? They would rather me say, yes, I do, and just hand them a personal contact than have to post it online. So if the job's online, don't even bother, if you ask me. Like I've gotten jobs that way, but it's brutal and it's few and far between, because the click once, send all my info over is not a boon for anyone. It's just more opportunity for people to submit trash.
It's like throwing uncooked pasta at the wall and hoping something will stick.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, it's who you know is how you get in. It's who you know.
An Incomplete Guide to World Domination is written, directed, and produced by me, Brianna Toiber, with music by Patrick Chester. If you would like to check out more of his stuff, I recommend going to chesterstudios.com. If you're interested in learning more about the Dallas Society of Play, you can find out more about them at dallassocietyofplay.org. To find any indie game dev meetups in your area, I recommend, as Summer said, to try checking out looking for local groups on Facebook and on meetup.com, because that's a great place to find both social groups and educational groups, and you never know what you're going to find there. If you have a story you would like to share, feel free to reach out, and until then, have a wonderful week